Hello and welcome to One Trek Mind with your hosts, me, Raptor.
And me, Michael.
And this is a brand new channel for both me and Michael. We have other channels, but we wanted to do one specifically with a Star Trek focus since we wanted to share our mutual love of the shows, the movies, the games, the lore, and more besides with the rest of you. So we hope we're going to see plenty of new subscribers and new people coming to join the channel. And this video we thought we'd start with a simple topic, which I will let Michael introduce.
How I became a Star Trek convert, stolen away from Star Wars.
Yes, since I'm the long-term veteran Trekkie and Michael is the green as grass newcomer Trekkie.
I'm not that new to it. Compared to you, maybe.
Well, yeah. So let's start with how I started as a Trekkie, because I think that's the best place to begin. I think I first started watching Star Trek when I was about 6 or 7 years old. So that would have been 1996, 97, around there. And at the time, my mum's boyfriend was collecting the Star Trek fact files, which I still have downstairs. I'll take a photo and put it on the video for this. The enormous binders, which is basically my Star Trek Bible, and that Michael really wants. He is a bit jealous of them.
A lot of good reading.
I used to have to, because each one obviously is hole punched, and I used to have to help my mum put the little paper stickers on each of the holes to reinforce them before they went into the binder. Most nights, whenever a new magazine was delivered, there would be me sticking these poxy, sticky white circles over these bloody holes. And obviously, you can't do that night after night after night with this random thing you've never heard of before without reading them as well. So that was how I first came to be aware of Star Trek, and then obviously it was starting to watch the episodes that were on TV, because the Next Generation was still on TV a lot there, and Voyager as well. And basically it just spawned from there, and now I'm a very much a hardcore Trekkie, as Michael will attest. And when me and Michael first started talking online, because we met each other through the internet, he started showing me Marvel stuff, which I admit I'm on the fence about.
Like you still don't like it, but that's okay. That's okay.
But I thought in return I would introduce Michael to Star Trek. And as a result, Michael became very much a Trekkie within a few months.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. I was a little on the fence right at the very start, but pretty quickly came around to it. I mean, my timeline of events was, as a kid, I had only heard of Star Trek. It was, for a long time in my life, basically just kind of the pop culture thing to sort of make fun of, because it does still to this day have a bit of a stigma around it, which is unfortunate. One that I think is very unjustified now after actually watching it. But as a kid, it was pretty much just Star Wars. I was introduced to the prequel trilogy as a very young kid. 1999, I think, was when Phantom Menace came out. And I watched all of those. And then as a teenager, finally saw the original trilogy. Really loved those. Still do to this day as well. Prequel trilogy, there are parts of it that I still like, but there's a lot that doesn't hold up. As
a tangent, the second movie I ever saw at a cinema was The Phantom Menace.
I don't remember the very first or second one that I saw. I know I saw them when I was so young and saw so many, and I'm like, I can't remember which one was the very first.
Jurassic Park The Lost World was the first film I ever saw in a cinema, and then it was The Phantom Menace. And then Toy Story 2, I think.
I remember seeing Phantom Menace in theaters, and again, as a kid, oh my god, I loved that movie. I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen. Again, now, as an adult, I'm like, the pod racing is still really good. But the rest of it, it's, there's things to discuss about it. But yeah, then as an adult, I finally saw the sequel trilogy when that came out, and at first I was kind of digging it. and then it just nosedived really, really hard there in the end. And then after that, there's now since been Star Wars shows that I believe have steadily gotten less engaging to downright terrible in some cases. I thought the Obi-Wan show and Boba Fett show were like awful. I did not. And it was around that time when I was being introduced to Star Trek, and it was just great. Like, I started with First Contact, had a lot of questions. I was like, I feel like there's some knowledge I was supposed to have before watching this, but it was still a good movie even on its own. I was enjoying it for sure. Did not like the body horror, though. That's one thing about the Borg. I will never be into the body horror.
First Contact is widely considered one of the two of the best films, so I thought that was the best way in, because you are a film buff. You studied it at a university level, and I thought,
I have a degree in everything.
We'll pick a movie. We'll pick one with, quite a lot of nice practical effects and some nice beauty shots and some thriller aspects, and we'll see how it goes. And yes, you did have an awful lot of questions, and then from there it was season 4 onwards of Voyager.
Yep, proceeded on kind of in the middle of Voyager, and that's when I was like, okay, I kind of like this. I'm actually really enjoying this. And that's when we kind of jumped back and, sort of started from the beginning of the legacy period and just moved on, starting with Next Gen from the beginning and then all the way until we finished with Enterprise.
Yes.
Well, technically all the way till we finished most recently with Strange New Worlds, but, we're the legacy period, Enterprise.
Yeah, and by the end of it you were thoroughly immersed, I would say.
Oh yeah. By the time we reached season 2 or 3 of Next Gen, I was in. I was in it for the long run. I was like, I love this. This is such a cool universe. I love the very different tone it has to other sci-fi.
I think every single different series has its own different tone, very much.
That is true. I do still feel like the Legacy series as a whole have kind of a similar tone. Not completely. Like, DS9 definitely feels very different from Next Gen. But even still, I think just that style of filmmaking for that era make them all feel fairly similar in terms of like what you get out of the show. But that's also one of the big reasons I don't understand the do you like Star Trek versus Star Wars? Because I am being a little facetious saying, I left Star Wars altogether for Star Trek. Because obviously I still like Star Wars. I would like it to be good again. It's just lately there hasn't been anything great. I did enjoy Ahsoka, but it wasn't amazing or anything. I would really like a good, solid Star Wars movie or show to come out. But as of now, Star Trek has really taken hold. But the two are completely different. Like, Star Wars is a big fantasy, operatic drama kind of story, whereas Star Trek is pure sci-fi. It is more of about like upholding the law in an idealistic future, as opposed to, the hero's journey with mystical force-related shenanigans and stuff like that. Like, it just feels very different. It is just the fact that the two take place in space that seems to be the common through line, which I don't think really warrants the hatred that the two fandoms will have for one another. I'm like, there's room for both, man. Like, they're both pretty cool.
Definitely. But oddly enough, you are like me. You're a solid Voyager, Janeway, Best Captain fan.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to the usual argument, which is Kirk or Picard.
Kirk is terrible. I'm sorry. He is a wild card. The fact that man didn't get his whole crew killed so many different times is insane to me. Don't get me wrong. I love Captain Kirk and good old William Shatner, but he is not the best captain. Like, not even by a long shot, if you ask me.
No. And Picard is just too... he's too good.
French.
French.
No, he's completely British. It drives me insane. Oh, yes, he's from a vineyard in France and has a very French name, but is so obviously British it is painful. Man drinks his Earl Grey hot tea.
Yeah, so we're both very much Janeway is the best captain. Yeah, and we went through all of the films, and there was quite a funny moment when we went back to rewatch, because you had watched the Jar Jar Abrams, as I call him.
Yes.
Star Trek movie in cinema. That was one of the first Star Trek films you saw.
That is the first Star Trek media I ever saw, was the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie way back in 2009 or whenever it came out.
I made you watch all of the series and all of the other movies, and then we went back to watch his films, and you sat there ripping them to shreds.
Yeah. Again, not knowing anything about the lore or anything that came before in Star Trek, those movies were, a fun time. You're like, oh, cool, we're going on a little space adventure. But when you have seen the original series and all the other aspects of Star Trek, that movie breaks every rule in every bit of canon it can think of, pretty much with the excuse of, oh, well, it's an alternate timeline, so we can do whatever we want, which, to be fair, you can. It is an alternate timeline. You can kind of do whatever you want with the rules, I guess. But it doesn't feel like any of the other Star Trek, and not in a good way either. Like, DS9 didn't feel like the Star Trek that had come before it, but in a good way, in a fresh, interesting kind of way. The J.J. Abrams one was just kind of a mess. It was a little ridiculous. I was saying the other day, it felt more like fan fiction, like a really eager Star Trek fan had been like, what if I did all these cool things with these characters without really thinking about the ramifications of that.
What if Spock and Uhura were
I mean, I still don't
together?
hate the whole Spock-Uhura romance in that movie. I just, from a movie standpoint, I'm like, what was the point of that? I feel like we didn't do anything with that relationship in any of the movies that Abrams had, so while it didn't offend me, I don't really see the point of it. But we'll have a separate video altogether dissecting those movies.
I think maybe it's a good time to sort of talk about what we're actually going to be doing on the channel, since this is video number 1. So the aim is to sort of have a video every couple of weeks to begin with, and those videos will be sort of generally a couple of different categories. We've come up with a few different things to do videos on, so we're going to be doing reviews of the movies and the shows. Probably, I think the idea was to start with the newer shows, because they're going to be coming out quite soon, aren't they?
Yeah, either a discussion on this latest season of Lower Decks, or if enough time has passed, we could start discussing the new season of Discovery. We'll see how it goes. I'm optimistic that it could be quite good, but I'm a little nervous that it might not be.
To use a well-placed quote, your optimistic appraisal of the situation is not... I fucked that quote bad, didn't I? It's, the Emperor does not share your optimistic appraisal of the situation. There we go.
But this is why we left Star Wars for Star Trek. We have to let it go.
But in addition to that, I'm going to be doing some lore-based videos. There's going to be some gaming streams and gaming videos when we start collecting the mass of Star Trek games that do exist. In fact, there's been a recent one by Telltale Games, which looks quite interesting, so maybe that might have to be the one we start with.
Could be fun. And
I'm also going to do some Starship-based videos around the various starships built in Star Trek Online. Sort of doing some fan lore videos. So That should also be quite fun. And intermingled, there'll also be random videos about random topics. What is it? I think one of the first ones we're going to do is sort of like our best captains and what members of the crews we would have in each position on our starships and such. So there'll also be more fun-based videos too. But that's all to come in the future.
I'm just excited to really dig deep into the world of Star Trek. Again, having been thrown into it, I didn't expect there to be as much as there is. I mean, just recently on a Google search, how many hours was every Star Trek show and movie? Like 100 or 817 or something?
Oh, 7... It came up to 34.1 days.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's a massive amount of content, which, unbelievably, despite some of the newer iterations of the IP, has remained pretty consistent with canon and world building and everything, which is, it's quite impressive. I can definitely see where the MCU has kind of pulled inspiration on building a larger universe and this sort of collective storytelling, because it's extremely engaging. And whenever you do see a character or a storyline kind of cross over from one to the next, it's always very exciting. Like, I enjoy seeing Doctor Strange pop up in my Spider-Man movie just as much as I enjoy seeing Worf pop up on DS9 or the latest season of Picard or something. Like, it's always really nice.
Yes, but I think we both really liked Worf's appearance in Picard Season 3, didn't we? Swords are fun.
I mean, he was probably the funniest character in that season. For the problems I did have with that show and that season, Worf was not one of them.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that when it comes to old versus new Trek, we are both very much on the side of old Trek, with the newer shows having problems. I think the Strange New Worlds, I think, is the one we're most positive about when it comes to new Trek.
Strange New Worlds is a bright little spot in the current Star Trek media. But all the shows currently at least have moments where I'm like, that's really good. That's a really good idea, or cool story, cool character. They all have something of merit. There's none of them where I was gonna say none of them where I find them to be overall bad, but I don't know. There's a lot of Picard that I'm like, I don't know.
Picard Season 1.
The show's not great.
But yeah, there'll be reviews and things to come. But yeah, we just wanted to do this quick little video to begin with, just to introduce the channel and who we are, and obviously also introduce the artwork. Our little heads at the bottom, drawn by Michael. Because
I made sure to do every uniform. I still have some more to go, but you'll see every type of uniform here.
And
what are we wearing right now? I
think maybe we'll do the favorite uniforms.
That means I have to try yours already.
And yeah, and Mike, I'm sure Michael will be doing other bits of art for videos as well, as our resident artist.
Indeed.
I mean, he did draw the logo, which I really like. So we hope you have enjoyed our very first video, just informing you folks about what the channel is for and what we'll be doing in the future. This is our first video. There will be more coming, and we hope to see you there. But for now, I want to say thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. So wherever you are, have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.